Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt like you didn't belong, not because anyone said it out loud, but because the air itself seemed to whisper that you were different? Have you ever carried dreams so big, so heavy, that you found yourself questioning whether they were real or just the burden of someone born into a deeper purpose? If so, you are not alone. You were never meant to blend in. You were never designed for the ordinary. The truth is, chosen ones are set apart, not because they asked to be, but because heaven decided that their lives would carry weight, purpose, and divine fire. And with that assignment comes pain, real pain, not the kind that bruises the body, but the kind that carves the soul. You've been misunderstood, rejected, isolated, even accused of being too much. But listen closely, your intensity is not a flaw. Your depth is not a problem. Your longing for more, your hunger for truth, your sensitivity to things others dismiss. These are not curses, they are confirmations. This is why your life has never followed the pattern of others. This is why shortcuts don't work for you. This is why, even when you try to just be normal, something inside you revolts. The pain you carry is not punishment, it's preparation. In this message, I will walk you through 5 pains that only the chosen ones face, not to discourage you, but to reveal the secret language of your spiritual calling. Stay with me until the end, because if your heart aches in ways no one else seems to understand, this might be the message your soul has been waiting for. And if anything I say resonates with you, drop a 77 in the comments to let me know you are part of this divine journey and you're not walking it alone. The pain of divine rejection. One of the first signs that you are chosen is that rejection follows you, not just in random ways, but in deeply personal, soul-cutting forms. People you trusted begin to disappear. Friends withdraw without explanation. Even family members treat you with suspicion or worse, silence. And you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? But the truth is nothing. You didn't do something wrong. You started carrying something right. The light in you has intensified. And whether you know it or not, light always disturbs the comfortable shadows around it. Your mere presence begins to reveal what others would rather keep hidden, not because you speak out, but because your spirit confronts. And so they leave, not because you failed them, but because your existence is a mirror that they are not ready to look into. Jesus himself faced this pain. He was the Son of God, yet his hometown rejected him. Isn't this just the carpenter's son? They scoffed. Even his family questioned his mission. If the purest soul that ever walked this earth was misunderstood and abandoned, why do you expect your light to be welcomed by all? Divine rejection is not random, it is surgical. God removes those who cannot walk with you into your next level. Sometimes he lets people exit your life not because they were evil, but because they were insufficient for the rhythm of your destiny. The deeper your calling, the narrower your circle must become. And so, he filters your relationships. It hurts, but it's holy. Rejection is God's redirection. It teaches you not to depend on applause, not to chase validation, but to anchor yourself in divine approval. Because in the seasons ahead, you won't survive by being popular, you'll survive by being faithful. So stop mourning the people who left. They had to. They were not assigned to the next phase of your life. And the more you let go, the more room you make for those who are truly called to walk with you, not just because they like you, but because they recognize your divine essence. The pain of sacred solitude. There is a kind of loneliness that no crowd can cure. You can be surrounded by people, laughing, talking, even loved, and still feel like an alien on your own planet. You smile because it's expected. You nod because it's easier. But inside, your spirit is quietly screaming for someone, anyone, to understand the vast world that lives within you. That is the loneliness of the chosen. It is not the absence of people, it is the absence of resonance. You operate on a different frequency. While others worry about appearances, you wrestle with eternity. While they talk about routine, you're weighed down by revelation. This disconnect becomes a chasm, and it aches, not because you're arrogant, but because your soul craves connection that goes beyond the surface. This sacred solitude is not a punishment. It is a divine training ground. It is the same silence that echoed around John in the wilderness, Paul in the prison, and Jesus in Gethsemane. The chosen must learn to hear God in the absence of applause, to to walk even when no one affirms the path. It's in the silence that your roots grow deep. It's in the solitude that your voice becomes purified. Chosen ones are not mass-produced. They are hand-carved in secret. And yes, it gets heavy. You wrestle with questions that others don't even consider. You experience burdens that you can't explain. You celebrate miracles that no one else saw happen. And it often feels like your victories are invisible while your battles are endless. But here's the beauty. The loneliness is forming something that connection never could. In isolation, your soul becomes fluent in God's voice. You begin to recognize the divine whisper in the noise of this world. You become intimate with the presence that never leaves, the friend who understands you without words. And one day, others will come, those who were shaped by the same fire, who speak your soul's language, who understand without explanation. But until then, this sacred solitude is not just something to survive, it's something to embrace. Because when God isolates you, it's because He's getting ready to launch you, not as a copy, but as an original, the pain of inner war. There's a war that no one sees, but you feel it every single day. It's not between nations or people, it's within you. A quiet, constant battle between the part of you that longs to rise into the divine and the part that still craves the comforts of the flesh. You love God deeply, and yet you still wrestle with temptation. You know the truth, yet sometimes you act against it. You set out to pray, and your mind drifts. You fast, and suddenly hunger screams louder than ever. You promise to forgive, but resentment lingers like a shadow. This is not because you are weak, it is because you are alive in the spirit. Those who are truly chosen do not escape the war. They feel it more intensely because their spirits are awake and their calling is real. The pain of this inner war is the agony of knowing what's right while still feeling pulled toward what's easy. You start to question yourself. Why do I still struggle if I'm chosen? Why do I fall if God is with me? But the very presence of the struggle is proof that your spirit is alive. If there were no war, it would mean you had already surrendered to one side. The chosen are not perfect. They are purified, not by avoidance of conflict, but by enduring it. Even Paul, the spiritual giant, cried out, "I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing." And he wasn't new in the faith. He was seasoned. That tells you something. The fight doesn't end with maturity. It simply becomes more refined. The enemy targets chosen ones with surgical precision. He doesn't waste time with generic attacks. He customizes temptations to match your assignment. If you're called to speak, he attacks your voice with fear or gossip. If you're called to lead, pride becomes your snare. If you carry an anointing for purity, shame will chase you relentlessly. But don't be fooled. The pressure is proof of your potential. The more intense the war, the greater the purpose. Holiness is not just about visible behavior. It's about invisible decisions, quiet motives, secret thoughts. The chosen learn to guard not just their actions, but their hearts. This war can leave you weary, but don't let it make you silent. The Holy Spirit is your strength. He intercedes with groanings too deep for words. He reminds you you're not fighting alone. Victory isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up again and again with honesty, humility, and hunger for transformation. Each time you rise, you strip the enemy of his lie that you are too broken to carry God's glory. You are not disqualified by the battle. You are qualified through it. The pain of sacred sacrifice. Being chosen means you will be asked to give up things that others get to keep. Not because you're less favored, but because your path is higher. And the higher the calling, the heavier the cost. Sacred sacrifice is one of the most misunderstood and painful parts of the chosen life. It's not always about giving up sin. It's often about letting go of things that seem good, valuable, or even God-given. A stable career that contradicts your purpose. A relationship that lacks spiritual alignment. A community that no longer feeds your soul. God whispers, "Let it go," and your heart breaks because it's not just about what you're losing. It's about losing something that felt safe, comforting, and familiar. What hurts most is that others don't have to give up the same things. You look around and see people living comfortable lives, holding on to things you're being asked to release. And you ask, "Why me, God?" But the answer lies not in comparison, but in consecration. You are not everyone, You are chosen. You were never called to live by common standards. Your soul is being carved for uncommon purpose. And sometimes, God will prune what is growing if it's not aligned with what He's building in you. Projects collapse, friendships end, opportunities vanish, not because of failure, but because of divine reconfiguration. Even Abraham had to walk away from his father's house. Moses had to leave the palace. Jesus had to leave the crowd to climb the mountain. Real sacrifice isn't measured by how much you let go, it's measured by how deeply it costs you. And the chosen don't just give up once. They live a lifestyle of surrender. Over and over, God says, I know you love it, but I love you more, and I know what's ahead. The pain is real, but so is the promise. Each no to the world becomes a yes to your calling. Each time you lay something down, you create space for something higher, something eternal, something holy. Sacred sacrifice is not about loss, it's about exchange. God doesn't take without purpose. He removes what is temporary to make room for what is timeless. Yes, the altar hurts, but it also heals. The fire that consumes also consecrates. So if you've had to let go of things you never thought you'd lose, know this: God saw what you couldn't, and your sacrifice has not gone unnoticed. It is the fragrance that rises to heaven and the soil from which your next season will grow. The pain of delayed promises. Few things hurt the soul more than waiting on a word from God that seems buried in silence. You received the vision, you believed the promise, you stepped out in faith. But days became months, and months became years, and still nothing. The doors remain closed. The voice you once heard clearly now feels distant. And your heart, once full of certainty, begins to tremble with questions. Did I imagine it? Did I miss it? Has God forgotten me? The pain of delayed promises is not just in the passing of time. It's in the slow erosion of expectation, the battle between what you believe and what you see. And it's one of the deepest trials a chosen one will ever face. This delay is not punishment, it's preparation. God is not just preparing the blessing for you, He's preparing you for the blessing. If He gave it too early, it might crush you. The promise requires a version of you that has been refined, matured, tested. Look at Joseph. He dreamed of ruling at 17 but was thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and imprisoned. Years of delay, yet every delay was alignment, every pause was purpose. He wasn't forgotten, he was being positioned. The same goes for David, anointed as king, but hunted like a criminal for over a decade. In both stories, the delay didn't deny the destiny, it shaped it. The waiting season reveals what shortcuts try to hide. It shows whether you want the promise or the promiser. It reveals your motives, strengthens your faith, and shatters the illusion of control. The world runs on speed, but heaven runs on seasons. And if it feels like your life is moving in slow motion while others sprint toward success, remember, diamonds aren't made quickly. They are made under pressure, hidden, in silence, underground. Promise still stands, but you must stand too. The temptation during delay is to take matters into your own hands, to settle, to force outcomes, to create an Ishmael when you were promised an Isaac. But chosen ones must resist the urge to help God. His timing may confuse you, but it never fails. Even the silence is speaking. Even the waiting is working. When the promise finally comes, it will be right, full, and undeniable. It will be worth every tear, every delay, every unanswered prayer, because the delay wasn't to destroy your hope, it was to deepen your roots. And what grows deep cannot be easily shaken. Spiritual integration. Your pain has a purpose. Now that you've walked through the 5 deepest pains known only to the chosen, you might be asking, why? Why would a loving God allow such wounds, such storms, such silence? The answer is both simple and profound, because your pain is not meaningless. It is a divine tool, carefully used by the Creator to shape you into who you were always meant to become. Every rejection was a redirection. Every moment of loneliness was a classroom for intimacy with God. Every internal war was the forge of inner purity. Every sacrifice was a seed of something eternal, and every delay was not a denial, it was divine timing working behind the veil. You see, chosen ones are not made in comfort, they are made in fire. You are not being destroyed, you are being refined. Gold only shines after it's been tested in flame. and your soul, like gold, is becoming unbreakable. The pain you felt wasn't sent to weaken you, it was meant to awaken you to your true identity, awaken you to your spiritual authority, awaken you to the calling that cannot be ignored no matter how hard you try to silence it. When God chooses someone, He doesn't decorate them with ease, He equips them with depth. And that depth often comes through suffering. Think about it. If you were called to comfort only, you wouldn't have survived what you've survived. But because you are called to lead, to break generational curses, to speak truth when others hide, to carry light where there is none, your soul had to be strengthened first. The battles you've fought were never just about you. They were generational. They were prophetic. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. And this is where your pain transforms into power. Once you understand that what hurt you also helped you, that what broke you also built you, you step into spiritual maturity. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Thank you, Lord, for trusting me with this process." Because it takes a special kind of soul to endure what you've endured and still choose to love, to believe, to rise. You are not abandoned. You are being refined in sacred secrecy. So when the time comes to be revealed, you will not crumble under the weight of your own destiny. So now the question becomes, what will you do with your pain? Will you hide it, numb it, or will you allow it to become your message, your mantle, your ministry? The world doesn't need more perfection, it needs more truth. And the chosen carry that truth not in polished phrases, but in scars that shine. Your pain has a purpose, and that purpose is calling you to rise. Conclusion: you were chosen for more than survival. If you've made it this far, it's not by accident. Something deep inside you recognized every word, not just with your mind, but with your spirit. You felt the tremble in your chest, the knot in your throat, the tears you didn't expect. That's not emotion, that's confirmation. You are one of the chosen, not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to walk a path others avoid, willing to endure storms others cannot see, willing to believe even when there's no evidence yet. You weren't called just to survive, you were called to transform, to overcome, to carry light in the darkest places, to speak truth in a world full of noise, to love when it would be easier to turn cold. The pain you've endured wasn't for nothing. It shaped you into someone this world desperately needs. Someone who doesn't just talk about purpose, but embodies it. Someone who has walked through fire and come out refined. Someone who carries spiritual weight in a world addicted to the superficial. And now you're here, not at the end, but at the beginning of something greater. A new clarity, a new strength, a new chapter in your calling. So let this be your reminder: you are not broken, you are becoming. You are not invisible, you are being hidden for the right moment. You are not forsaken, you are fiercely loved. And you are not alone, we are in this together. If this message spoke to you, if you saw your story in these words, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video to let others know they are not alone. Share it with someone who's walking through silent battles. Subscribe to the channel if you want to walk this journey with a tribe that sees you, hears you, and walks with you. And leave a 77 in the comments if your spirit was touched. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to rise. And you will. The best is yet to come.